ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. Okay, any questions, clarifications, or shall we go ahead? Anyone, any questions? Shoot.
Swamiji, I have one doubt.
Shoot.
You were talking about this theory of perception, how an object is viewed and how the mind takes its form, etc.
Yeah.
Is it applicable, or can we understand the process of thinking also in the same manner? Suppose some thought arises and I process it.
Yeah. Only thing is you don't need a separate thought. See, for an object outside, you need a relevant thought inside the mind. But for a thought which is already inside, you only have to objectify it. No? The thought is already there. Vritti Vyapti is already there. Yeah.
So the mind taking the form, etc. is not applicable.
Yeah, because already taken the form, no?
Yeah.
It's already taken the form.
Yeah.
There's only that subject-object relationship to be maintained. That's why we say whether you are aware of your thinking or not aware of your thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay.
Swamiji, if I might ask a question, Swamiji.
Yeah, Karthik, bolo.
Swamiji, something that has been bugging me a little bit is that we say that for anything to be objectified, it implicitly has a form. But for example, space is formless.
Yes.
So that's how do I reconcile that, Swamiji?
Yeah, because space is not seen with your eyes. Space is not seen by any sense organs. Because even the blind, etc., can see space, can know space. Therefore, this space is seen directly by the knower without the necessity of a sense organs. Exactly like how you see your emotions, your thoughts, etc. So even though space appears formless, it's still objectified by you.
Because you know it directly.
Yeah, exactly. Subject-object relationship is there.
I see. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, okay.
And Swamiji, may I?
Yeah?
What about the emotions? How do we objectify the emotions? I mean,
How do you do it? Tell me.
suppose it's anger. When you say process the anger, so
You objectify your anger, isn't it?
Observe my emotions, stand apart, and
Are you aware of your anger or not aware of it?
yeah, I am aware of that.
That means there is a subject-object relationship.
Yeah, with all the emotions, there is.
With every thought, with every emotion. The problem is, out of ignorance, we are so identified with the emotion, we take the emotion as myself.
Yeah.
I mean, different people may have different emotions that they identify with strongly. Some people may identify strongly with funds. Some people may not even know, may not be even self-aware to know what they are identifying with. Like anybody who's hyper, for example. Very anxious and hyper about things. You ask them, why are you so hyper? I'm not hyper. This is norm for me. But it is true. You're still objectifying it. But the self-awareness is a little bit poor there. I know one person who is so hyper. He actually traced back why he became hyper. What was the experience in his life that made him hyper like this? He actually traced it back to 20 years ago. He actually did it. I'm not mentioning names because many of you know him. I don't want to mention names and embarrass the guy. Though if he was here, he would have said, Swamiji, that is me. I know that. He would have said that. but since he is not here, I am not mentioning names. He actually went back and traced to the situations in his life that he went through, very difficult times. And he identified that. So his self-awareness was very good. Some people don't have that. That's one thing that has to be cultivated. As someone said, only a self-aware person can go to self-knowledge, or self-realization, if I may use that word. I don't like to use that word realization, but whatever. Yeah. So, everything is objectified by you. Tell me one thing which is not objectified by you or by somebody else. Now, if you go into the psychological theories, there is something called your unknown side. Like they call it bad breath area. If you have bad breath, you don't know you have bad breath. Somebody else has to tell you, hey, what did you have for lunch? Maybe you should have a mint. So before you meet your partner in life, don't say 1 minute, say 1 mint. So there are certain areas like this which we may not be fully aware of. But it is not that you cannot become aware of that. So even though you are not aware of it now, it's subject to yourself. It is subject to your objectification later. Even your unconscious can be inferred based on certain thought patterns, behavioral patterns, etc. Subconscious anyway throws it up in your mind, so you know it. Any person who has been meditating for some time knows that subconscious will throw up the thoughts and you'll come to your fully conscious life. That's why when one of the preparations for Vedanta would be to turn the spotlight of my awareness, functioning awareness, to all those dark areas in my mind, and know what are the problematic areas. It's important to do that. Yeah. Because we don't want anyone taking us for granted, but we take ourselves for granted. Nobody likes to be taken for granted. But we do that with ourselves. We take ourselves for granted. So in that process, certain areas we are not fully aware of. So it's good to know those areas and deal with those. If there is any issue to be dealt with. If there is no issue to be dealt with, leave it alone. Okay? You don't have to unnecessarily dig up everything in your past. Yeah. Because remember, in Vedanta, we are not trying to make people as carbon copies. We are not. We are not making people carbon copies. So it's okay to have, in fact it's good to have different personalities, different this, oh, that's nice. And if there is any problem area, any issue in any area, yeah, that area deal with. Otherwise, the variety of personalities are good. It is interesting. Makes the world interesting. It will be a boring place if everyone has carbon copies. That will happen only in a cult and things like that. One way of recognizing as a cult is everybody having same thinking, same knowledge, same feeling, same this thing. Same belief system, same this thing. same political ideologies. Whereas among students of Vedanta there is a variety. Teachers of Vedanta also there is variety. Personality wise there is a huge range available, and that makes it good. Any other questions before we go ahead?
Thank you, Swamiji.
Okay. Okay. We'll assume things are clear. Okay. Okay, I think we did the 59th verse last time, right?
58, Swamiji.
Oh, 59th we didn't do. Okay.
You're done 59.
59 also we are done. Yeah. 59 also we are done.
59 is done.
Yeah. Ajoham, Chamaroham, all that. Yeah. Amrutyu, Abhayevacha, all that.
Yes, Swamiji. Sorry, Swamiji.
Yeah. So there he has said Sarvajnaha Sarvadrak Sakshi. Little bit he is equating with Ishvara there. Though functionally speaking, you will never be Ishvara, okay? Functionally speaking. You are equated to Ishvara only to understand the underlying reality between you and Ishvara. That both are one consciousness. It is not to equate functionally. Functionally, it will never happen. The maximum with all your meditation and samyama practice and all that is, you will get some connection and some insights into Ishvara's mind. That's the maximum that will happen. Yeah. Even if you are a rishi, like, what rishis I am talking about? Not the priests who are called Brahma Rishi, not those characters, okay? I am talking about rishis like Vasishtha, Vishwamitra, etc. Even their minds wouldn't include Ishvara's knowledge. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, you will see it on this Wednesday when Bharata goes to meet Rama. Bharadwaja's ashrama, he doubts. Why exactly has Bharata come here? What is his motive? He doubts in the beginning. Then he sort of contemplatively understands what it is. Okay, all right. Yeah. If he was Ishvara, he wouldn't have to contemplate. He would know. Yeah. So, functionally nobody is. Okay. Functionally nobody is.
That would be true of an avatar also, Swamiji, right?
Yep.
Even somebody like
Yes.
Rama or Krishna also will
Yes.
be limited by the...
Yeah, we're limited by the upadhis. Their upadhis are special upadhis which are capable of taking care of the special needs because of which they were born. Like Rama's upadhi was capable of destroying Ravana, which no other being at that time could do. That's why it called for a special upadhi. That's when avatara came. Yeah. Therefore, each avatara is meant for a function and their upadhis can take care of that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So,
Swamiji,
yeah?
if even in Ishvara, no? So this is karma phala will be Ishvara's this thing, no?
Order, Ishvara's structure, the infrastructure he has set up.
Order.
Yeah.
So that depends on the jiva, no?
Correct.
So then again it becomes both are become the means that way Ishvara becomes limited in the karma phala is standard, no? I mean, so then what I'm trying to say is that Brahman and Ishvara, when Ishvara is with Maya Shakti, then the limiting factor for Jiva, and there is the Ishvara is also has that law and order which cannot be changed, right? So it becomes is it?
Are you saying that Ishvara is limited because he cannot change his own law and order setup?
Because is it is it because of the jivas, the karmas, the
1 second. For whom is karma, karma phala? Tell me that first.
or the jiva?
Okay. So the jiva does karma and he gains karma phala. So, do you not need a structure for that? You need a certain cause effect structure.
Yeah.
A certain structure which will naturally give you karma phala. Otherwise, what will happen is Ishvara will have to keep sitting and giving everyone karma phala. Big headache for Ishvara. Crazy characters doing everything. So he sets up a structure. Okay, he sets up a structure. A structure which works perfectly fine. Karma phala will come. There is a matrix and the karma phala will come. He sets it up. Now you are saying, is he limited because he cannot change that? I have set it up. Why do I don't want to change it. If I keep changing it, then I'll be partial. He's a good man. Therefore, doesn't matter if he has done a crime. I will excuse him for it. No, karma phala will weigh everything. His goodness, his action, his past, his present, his future, all that, and it take into account and give him karma phala. Everything is automatically graded and given. The system works. Otherwise, you will have to say, if a saintly person falls out of the balcony, gravity should be suspended until he lands on the ground. And if gravity is suspended, he won't land on the ground. Even if in that limited area it is suspended, you will have big problems. That building structure will be in problem because only in that limited area.
No, but Swamiji, I'm sorry, but can I just clarify this doubt of mine?
Yeah, please.
The limitation here is the gravity. Even if he wants to save the guy, the law is going to act on him. So
Why should you tell me? Why does Ishvara have a personal desire to save this guy?
Personal?
Desire to save this guy. Why should
I
he?
mean, in case if
Once again,
there is anything-
on what are you basing that assumption? You are basing that assumption on looking at Ishvara as some guy sitting down somewhere. Correct? Big brother is watching. Isn't that your idea when you are asking that if Ishvara wants to save this guy? That means you are looking at Ishvara as a person sitting down in Timbuktu.
No, what I'm saying is all the laws are fixed, like law of gravity, the ocean
More or
is
less
salty,
fixed.
The ocean water is salty, the clouds are forming, the river is
They are fixed under certain conditions. As a doctor, you should know that. As a science student, you should know. They are not fixed across the whole cosmos. They are only fixed under certain frameworks. Correct or not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to add, where does the question of grace comes?
Grace I will handle. I'll come to that grace later. Let me finish this part of it. Yeah.
Okay.
So, unless you think about Ishvara as a person, you cannot ask this question. Correct? If you are talking of Ishvara as the consciousness manifests in the totality, this question is not there. Where is the question? Because Ishvara is manifest as the totality. Consciousness manifests in the totality is Ishvara. So that personal God that you worship is invoking that Ishvara in a manner that you can relate. Until you can relate to the cosmic order, you are invoking in a personal form. That's only an invocation. That is your doorway to connect with Ishvara. It is like you are lost in thought and I want to draw your attention. Shall I touch your finger? Shall I touch your head? Are you seeing that? To draw your attention? Yeah. Or shall I shout out your name loud enough, like in an arati? You get the point? So that is my doorway of connecting up. Yeah. Now Sashi's question, what about grace? Grace is a very graceful way of saying karma phala. Because grace has to be earned. Grace does not come just like that. With your attitudes, with your prayers, with your karma, you have to earn that grace. With your regular prayers. That's why when you are praying, your nitya karma, your nitya prayers, everyday prayers, you may not have anything particular to ask for, but you will make the sankalpa, Parameshwara Prithiyartham, Sarva Durita Kshayartham cha, Idam Karma Karishye. I am doing this prayers for the Lord to be pleased with me. That's a way of saying it. Again, you are looking at God as person. That's why. That is karma, karma phala. That's earning grace. So that things goes fine in your life. The luck factor works in your favor most of the times. Or even if it doesn't work in your favor, you have the ability to handle it. That's also good enough. The problem comes if luck doesn't work in my favor and I don't have the ability to handle it also. Then I am in a soup. Then also I am not in a soup. If I know the people who can help me to handle it, I am fine. For that also you need God's grace. Why? The people whom you don't know came to help you. That means what? God's grace worked in various ways. What karma you did, you don't know to gain that. Therefore you say God's grace. If you go to an astrologer, he will say, this horoscope is good. There is a lot of Deva Adhinam. Deva Adhinam. Meaning God's grace. He is under the protection of the Lord. Literally that's what it means. Okay. It is not a South Indian language, it's Sanskrit, okay? Though Tamilians and Malayalis use the word literally. It's Sanskrit. Yeah. That is grace. That means a lot of karma, good karma has been done by the person. Asmin janmani janmantareva. That's all it means. Yeah.
Swamiji?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we say that, if I do my prayers or if I really work on it, it can dilute my karma.
Yep.
Whatever.
Your present karma can take care of previous karma. Yes.
Yeah. So there is diluting which the sanchita, the
Prarabdha. Prarabdha karma.
Prarabdha karma.
Generally prarabdha karma.
So that is also part of the setup.
Present karma that you are doing. If your bad luck in this life is taken care of to an extent, that means what karma it is taking care of? Your prarabdha karma, no?
Prarabdha. No, but I mean, so that everything goes according to the setup or the law. So even this
is part of the matrix. This is a part of the matrix of karma. So your present karma can change certain things. It is like if you get an infection, you take some medicines. Yeah, hopefully the medicine should work. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, so same way. That is why now Baba Ramdev has come under a lot of criticism for what he said, It is true, he has been overcritical about allopathic medicines. But what he says is not wrong. First you talked about chloroquine, etc. for treatment of COVID. Then you junked it. Then you talked about something else. Then you junked it. Then you talked about steroids and said misuse of steroids is causing black fungus infection. Then you went on and on and on about plasma therapy. Now you have junked that also. So he said, Ayurvedic medicine, allopathic medicine doesn't seem to be doing the job. He's not entirely wrong. Because by trial and error, we are finding what will pick up your immunity and give the body the ability to fight the disease. No? It's a virus. There is no antiviral treatment really available. It's limited. All antivirals are highly limited. That's why bacterial infection is easier to fight. Therefore, Ayurveda looks at it more holistically, but Ayurveda is not available in an emergency, it doesn't work. Emergency, you need Western medicine. But if you want to build up your immunity, etc., Ayurvedic medicines work well. So you mean to say if I take Ayurvedic medicines, I will not gain any infection? It depends on which is stronger. If your immunity is stronger, you won't be infected. If the infection is stronger, you will be infected. Simple. Where is this big problem about judging what is more important, less important? What is the big issue? It's like you fall on the ground. Ground is harder, your bones will break. Your bones are harder, ground will break. Now decide which is what happens. Yeah. I don't know, there was a mixed martial arts tournament that I saw where this character kicked the other guy's leg in a very hard manner. Really, very good kick. Among the kicks, it was great. Well timed, everything. But that guy's leg was harder, so this guy's leg got injured. The one who kicked got injured. I'm not joking, it actually happened. There's YouTube videos are available on that. He broke his leg. Literally broke his leg. Couldn't stand. Even though he was aggressor in that. So other guy must have had a good laugh. Like he kicked me and his leg broke. Why? Because the one who received the kick, he was tougher. Simple as that. Yeah. So similarly, when you are fighting an infection by whatever treatment you are using, okay, if it's preventive in Western medicine, you will give some vitamin tablets, this, that, etc. to build up your system. It's fine. Don't take too many vitamin mineral supplements, okay? Then the rats in the sewer will get stronger because the body will excrete it. So the whole thing is a matrix of karma, etc. Certain things work, certain things don't work. Yeah. So don't waste too much of time thinking which karma is going to do which thing is. That's why we gracefully say it's God's grace and leave it. Yeah. All right. Any other questions or shall we go ahead? See, I'm perfectly fine with the questions because...
That's one question. You said that the prarabdha karma, maybe by prayer or action, it can go. What about sanchit karma?
Sanchita karma is not yet fructified. It is remaining for you. You can't do anything about sanchita karma now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have to take a rebirth.
Unless you know the truth.
Unless Jivan Mukta. Unless you become Jivan Mukta then.
See, birth, rebirth, you have no choice. Yatha karma, yatha jnanam. We've seen that in the Gita. In keeping with your karma and your meditations and your things, birth and rebirth is a fact of your experience. Not a fact in terms of reality, but a fact of your experience. You will keep going through it until you come to understand the truth. So the only way of really freedom from karma is not through karma. Freedom from karma is by knowing the truth. In between, by some karmas, you can manage some problematic karmas. You can enhance some good karmas by some karma today. Yeah. You can enhance it also. Why are we only talking about negating it? Don't you want to enhance the good luck that you have so you get better luck?
This that tantric who does all these pujas and for that is also for diluting the karmas only. No?
Yeah. When do you go to when we see, as our cultural degeneration is so high, when do you ever go to an astrologer or a pujari or something? Only when you are stuck in a problem, no?
Yes, that is.
And then also if people will crib, he's asking me to do so many pujas, then don't go. Don't go to the pujari. You can't go to a doctor and say he's giving me medicines to eat.
No, I am asking a different question.
No, I am also answering the same question. So we will go only when a problem comes up.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. When do you go to a doctor? Do you really go to, nowadays little bit you do your health checkup and things like that, which is good. Because before a problem comes up, you are seeing that everything is okay, which is a good thing to do. Preventive medicine is necessary in the society. So previously like that, there was also preventively looking at karma. I remember when I was young, every year, the astrologer will be called to do a year's reading. This is it. What is going to go good in this life, in this year? What is going to go bad? Check up and see. Once a year. It was done. So that you take care of things before the problem comes up. Yeah, it's a good idea. But we don't do that. So we go only when there is a problem. So then he'll give you something specific for the problem, to take care of the problem. And that also, when the problem starts, you don't go. Only when you find you are helpless with the problem, you will go. Yeah. Is there a guaranteed cure? No. It's karma phala. There are no guarantees. If your prarabdha is very strong that you have to suffer this, then whatever you do will only give you 10%, 20% relief. Whereas if it is not that strong, you will get about 80% relief. 20% you will still have to go through. Why? Because karma phala, you can't completely escape it. You have to go through some of it. Yeah. So that's how the whole thing works. Whether it is Vedic karma, Tantric karma, any karma works like that only. Or your personal prayers, etc. It all works in the same manner. Karma phala. So there are various modalities of karma, etc. Okay, fine. So it's not that the same problem that is faced by two people, the same solution will be given. Because the cause may be different. You can't say the same thing, you are suffering the same thing because of the same cause. No. You can't say that. Now that to our scientific minds doesn't seem logical. You can break a leg by falling down the stairs. You can break a leg by slipping in the bathroom. You can break a leg because you kicked somebody stronger. You can break a leg because you met with a driving accident. Cause is same in all cases. But when an astrologer tells you that, you say this is not scientific. Thinking, no, not enough. Thinking is not enough. That's all the problem is. One person, the doctor will say, "You're Sade Sati. That's why you have to break your leg." Another person will say, "Your Mangal is in a problem situation. Therefore, you are meant to meet with accidents." Yeah. Another third person will say, "Your guru is afflicted right now. God's grace is not there. Therefore, small things became big things." So each is different. Cause is different. Therefore, solutions will be different. You can't say for that person the astrologer did this thing. Therefore, I will also do the same thing and I'll get freedom from it. No, it won't work. Are you getting it, Neeta Ben?
Swamiji, I was just meaning that the God's grace, extra grace, can be earned by these things also.
Can be earned by many
Does it
things.
mean that?
It can be gained by many things.
Yeah, no, I mean besides prayer and all, besides what all we have said so far,
Yep.
that is except
Special pujas also will get you grace. Yes.
that's what I meant.
General
yeah.
pujas, special pujas. But special pujas, see, our minds, I'm forced to say all these things because our cultural understanding is very, very poor. Otherwise, there's a Vedanta class. I need not go into all this. Once, it was about 12, 13 years ago. A friend of mine who was a priest, he was in Bombay at that time, said, "You see, Swamiji, the times are very bad for people. So I am going to do a puja for common welfare. Okay. Will you participate in that?" I said, "Sure, I will participate in that. Whatever funds I can give, I will give that as well." Okay. So in that puja, it was Lord Shiva that was invoked. And he did it very beautifully. I was there for it. Some of my students also came for it. So looking at that puja, one of my students, this lady says, "I also want to do that puja." I said, "This is not sari shopping or candy shopping. If you want to do a special puja, you have to see what is the issue at hand and then do a special puja. Otherwise, go and do a special puja for your Ishta Devata. A generalized puja, where instead of you worshipping at home, you call a priest and ask him to do a puja. But he will also ask you which puja you want to do. What is happening in your life? Accordingly only he'll do the puja." This is not like deciding to go and eat. I want to eat Italian today. Or I want to eat Chinese. It is not like that. That's like going to a medical shop and saying, "I want that medicine because I feel like eating it." You can't do that. Can't do that. Yeah, today you feel like worshipping Shiva, go walk into a Shiva temple, offer your worship and come out. That's fine. That much is fine. Yeah. You don't have to wait for a Monday. You can do that on any day. So now this is COVID times and I go for a walk. So I passed 2-3 temples. Now all the temples are closed, but you can see the deity inside. So I'll always do my Salam Alaikum before I go ahead. Yeah, you offer. It's fine. Yeah. So that is a different thing. Yeah. Is this thing clear? Some of these cultural ideas is becoming clear because our exposure to our Indian culture is very, very, very poor.
Yes, Swamiji. Thank you.
All right. Then let us get back into a text. Otherwise, the whole class will become only this. Okay. Okay. So the 60th verse now. पूर्वोक्तं यत् तमो बीजं तन्नास्ति इति विनिश्चयः तदभावे कुतो जन्म ब्रह्मैकत्वं विजानतः. Purvoktam, what was said before, yat tamo bijam, the bijam for tamas, ityadi. Meaning what? Avidya. Okay? That Maya which affects me, avidya, tan nasti iti vinishchaya. I am very clear that there is nothing like Maya. What is there is only one, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. Everything else is Mithya, including Maya. Is Maya Satyam or Mithya? No, Maya is Ishvara Shakti, no? So Ishvara's power has to be real, no? I have a great power which is not real, but which is manifest very often. You know what is that? The power to confuse people. Without wanting it also sometimes it happens. People get confused. And they say, Swamiji is confusing me. मजा आता है. So see, so Ishvara is real as Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. Avidya Shakti hi nasti. Even if Avidya, Maya, etc. is presented for this questioning mind that says, how did this happen? How did that happen? How did this? And very interesting. 40 minutes we discussed only those things today. No? All Mithya things only we discussed. Why? The mind gets involved in Mithya. Why? Because sometimes, and then Swamiji, why did you go along with it? Because unless these things are set right, you won't understand Satyam. These things will start niggling and bothering you. I am not saying every aspect of Indian culture should be followed by everyone. I myself don't follow every aspect. Do you see anything on my forehead? All sadhus have, no? I don't follow. The Lord made sure that I don't follow. He gave me such an oily forehead that nothing lasts there. So every aspect, everyone need not follow. But you need to have an understanding about it. That's important. Some general understanding. Not detailed understanding, some general understanding. Why? Because this is your culture. Otherwise, all those will become blocks in your mind. Either orthodox blocks, because of some orthodoxy has crept in, or pseudo-secular blocks, because that is your background. Or some leftist blocks, leftist thinking blocks. Something will always be there. And based on that, you will judge the teaching, the unfoldment of the truth. This will be your unconscious. This will be your cultural bias. You can have an orthodox bias. You can have a secular bias. You can have a leftist bias to interpret the same teaching. You can have a cultural bias, an anti-cultural bias. So it is necessary to keep that apart. Yeah. You can have a liberal bias also. The liberals are supposed to accept everything. But they don't accept everything. Other than what they think they can't accept. Therefore there is a liberal bias also. How do I know? Because I have friends from all these backgrounds, okay? I am someone who can mix with anyone and everyone. So I have friends from all these backgrounds. Okay? So, okay. But all these will prevent you from understanding. Therefore, I spend some time explaining it. Because the whole thing is within that Maya structure. Culture also is within that Maya structure. Your understanding is also within that Maya structure. And that is not really there. What is really there is only Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. So once you have negated your personal avidya about Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman, then what? Tada abhave kutah janmaha. My avidya, my ignorance about Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman aham asmi iti, that I have negated. With learning and understanding, I have negated that. Therefore, kutaha janma? Where is birth? I am not saying there is no more future birth or death. I am saying I was never born. Swamiji, I know your birth date, okay? I know your nakshatra, your star, everything I know. It is not for me, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. You can talk about that for my body. Kutaha janmaha brahmaekatvam vijanataha. So normally what is said is, once you know the truth, there is no more further birth and death for you. Which is true. Because why are you having birth and death anyway? Oh, because of karma phala. Therefore I should get rid of karma phala. That will never happen. By karma you will never get rid of karma. With the process of doing karma creates more karma. You remember that plan that we saw some time back? Here is a plan to get rid of karma by karma. Look at this plan. It can work very well. I will do only my Nitya Naimittika karmas. These are duties enjoined by the Veda, therefore I will do my Nitya Naimittika karma. I will not do any Kamya karma. Because Kamya karma can create more karma phala. I will not do any Nishiddha karma which I am not supposed to do. Clean middle class life. Typical middle class thinking, okay? That's why we think desires are bad, no? How many middle class people struggle to accept the fact that they can have desires? Like the 70-year-old lady was telling me, I feel so guilty that I feel like a desire of going and buying a sari. I said, go buy one now, what's your problem? If you feel like buying a sari, go buy one. But I am 70, so what? You can have that desire at 90 also, what's the problem? It's not adharmic or something like that. It's a small thing. Yeah. It's a small thing. What's the big deal about it? Yeah. So we are nothing. So Kamya karma I will not do. Nishiddha karma I will not do. Only Nitya Naimittika karmas. Then my prarabdha karma will be over on death and I will gain moksha. This sounds nice. This is what religious people live by. Forgetting there is a whole Sanchita karma waiting for you. The whole Sanchita karma is well waiting. Some of it will fructify to give you a nice birth. Forgetting that, people think like this. Therefore, freedom from karma is not through karma. Freedom from karma is by knowing that you are akarta abhokta. You are not a karta abhokta. You are that limitless consciousness itself. Until you know that. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Why? Because you have to go on your journey. Keep enjoying your karma phala. The hope in Ishvara's order, there is this hope, this implied hope in Ishvara's order, that going through these experiences, some sense will come in. Don't we say that about people? You try to explain certain things to some youngsters, they are not getting it. Then you leave them. ठीक है यार, मार खा के सीख जाएगा. There is an expression in Hindi like that. मार खा के सीख जाएगा. The experience in life will teach them. They have to suffer a bit. They have to suffer a bit. Yeah. Only then they will understand. So the hoping is that your experiences, that because you are an intelligent being, that you look into your experience, analyze them and learn. Most people don't do that very well, but still there is a hope that will be done. So hope that will be done. And people do it also to an extent, in some, at least learning may be slow, but it happens. It's not that experiences don't teach us. If you think a bit, we learn. If you think, you will learn. If you don't think, of course you won't learn. And sometimes wrong learning can also creep in. That's okay. Then fresh experiences will make you challenge that learning. So, through karma phala, birth and death, you will evolve enough to come to the truth. Why? Because this teaching is always available, minimum as an undercurrent in the society. That's why every generation of teachers makes it a point to create teachers for the future. So that as an undercurrent, at least it will be available right through. So we do that. Okay. So that the ultimate purpose is for you to grow until you know the truth. Therefore, Brahmaikatvam Vijanataha, he says, where is Janma, karma phala, everything gone. Therefore, this also brings in a corollary. If anyone comes and tells you, you do this one thing or this process and you are free from all your karma, it's a trip. Doesn't matter if you have a long beard. Doesn't matter if he's a jatadari. Why? Because it doesn't work. It doesn't work. By one karma done here, you cannot get rid of all the karmas in your past. It's illogical to even assume that. Whether it is said by someone belonging to the Hindu tradition, Jain tradition, Buddhist tradition, Christian tradition, Islamic tradition, or no tradition, it is illogical. It's illogical. Yeah. Doesn't work. One process cannot remove everything. Knowledge can remove, because at the source of all karma is avidya. Karma is based on avidya. Since karma is based on avidya, the freedom of karma comes from freedom from avidya. Therefore, Brahmaikatvam Vijanataha ko janmaha kutaha janmaha, he says. Because Swabhavataha, you happen to be free from karma phala. Your true nature is free from karma and karma phala. Karma phala affects only a finite being. You are the limitless consciousness itself. Therefore, you cannot be affected by any karma or karma phala. But our identification with the body and mind is so strong that the karma phala which affects the body and mind is taken as mine. That's the whole issue. That is the whole issue. And you cannot get rid of this identification without knowing the truth. Yeah. No, I will just witness everything. Very good. Witnessing is good. It may gives you a contemplative mind. So you see, I'm independent of everything. But what are you? That problem will still remain. Otherwise, you'll have to sit in a cave and keep witnessing all the time. Yeah, keep witnessing. और कुछ मत करो. But then hunger, thirst, etc. will draw you outside. Then you have to do something about it. Then you'll say, with this food, my witnessing and my samadhi is not working properly. So I have to have different type of food. Yeah, you see all the people who are into these things bother lots about food and things like that. I'm not saying don't bother about what you eat and don't eat. No. Definitely bother about it. Don't get fixated on it, that's all. Yeah. Don't get fixated on it. Yeah, it's like someone coming and telling, you should listen to your body and eat what the body wants. So I was thinking, does this person really know what he's talking about? So I said, if I really listen to your advice, I'll become a blob. He says, why? Because I will be living on cheese and chocolates every day. The poor guy didn't know what to say. I said, so this is just sprouting something he has heard without really understanding. Which is true. Your body tells you what you want and what it doesn't want. Your body will tell you. If you have the sensitivity to listen to your body, not listen to your mind, which is desiring cheese and chocolates. No. For that you need a certain amount of independence created by your discipline, etc. Then it works. Yeah. So, going by that, okay, if you are dependent on a process is good for taking care of your mind. That much it will give you. I am not dismissing it out of hand. Any process will help you take care of your mind, etc., which is good. But then finally you have to come to the knowledge of the truth, what it is. Yeah. Then, once I know the truth, will I go back? That question can also come up. Like I studied French in school. Why? Because when I was in school, I wanted to see the world. So I said, one foreign language is good to have. I had a choice of Sanskrit, but I took French. Can you imagine that? I was that type of an idiot that time. How much do I remember French now? Très bien. S'il vous plaît. A few phrases. So if I am in France and I utter these few phrases, they will look at me nicely and say, at least he's making an effort. More than that, I don't know anything about. I don't remember anything. Gaya. All forgotten because not used. Not used. So similarly, you know the truth and you are not a teacher or anything like that. Therefore, you are not using it every day. Will it be forgotten? Will it be forgotten? So there he asks this. The next verse is answering that question. Shirat sarpir yatha dritya क्षिप्तं तस्मिन् न पूर्ववत् बुद्ध्या देहे न्यः तथा असत्यन्न देहे पूर्ववद भवेत, na dehi purvavad bhavet. Okay. Kshirat, from the milk. Okay. Milk, you made it into curds, from there you extracted the butter. Okay, when the curds you removed, that, you all know the process. You all know the process? The older people may know, I don't know about the younger people. Who make butter at home? You will see where you can get white butter. Because you remember your mother made it and ate it. Now I want white butter. Kidhar se milega? Butter, you will get Amul butter. Yellow butter only you will get with salt in it. Should tell Amul, start having white butter also, you will get, all the South Indians will go for it. Anyway. Because South Indians also don't make butter at home nowadays. But once you have removed this, he says, butter is removed from the milk. Then you put that butter into the milk again. Into that buttermilk, from where you are extracted, you put it back. Throw it back into it. Like before, will it go melt? Will it go back completely into it? It never go back completely. Okay. Purvavat, it will not happen. Little bit here and there it may happen. But never Purvavat. Not like before. It will not get lost in that buttermilk. It will not get dissolved into that buttermilk. Those of you who doubt it, please try it. Because he is given an example that was norm at that time. Okay. Norm at that time. Okay. Therefore, buddhya dehe jnahat tataha asatyat na dehi purvavad bhavet. Similarly, from mano buddhi ahankara, etc., I have seen myself as independent from all of that, and I have seen myself as satyam jnanam anantam brahman. Then what? Then I went and had my lunch. I saw the truth very clearly. Okay, for a number of days I am exposing myself to the learning. Very clear. Then Purvavat, I took back my body, mind, etc., to go and have my lunch. But will my understanding will be like before, completely lost? Previously I took the body and mind as me. Now will I take the body and mind as me? Not if you know the truth. If you know the truth, no. If you don't know the truth, yes, of course. Yeah. If the butter has not been fully separated from the buttermilk, yeah. But it has been fully separated. It has been seen as butter. It has been made into a nice round ball of butter. Similarly, you have become whole. You understood yourself as a whole. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. How can you go back to the old thinking? Purvavat, it can never become. Even if you have Nishtha issues, meat and potatoes thinking come back, it will never be as before. You remember that example of that beggar who won a lottery and became rich overnight? He still behaves like a poor man when there is free distribution of something. But immediately he catches himself also, oh my God, what am I doing? He catches himself. Yeah, because, hey, this is not me, I am no more a beggar. Similarly, my beggarly thinking may come up once in a way. If my nishtha is poor, if my rootedness in the knowledge is poor, it may come up. So what do you do for that? 2-3 options are available. One is what? Pavanah punyena shravanam kuryat. Again and again keep listening, keep exposing. But there is a limit in my life, how much I can keep attending classes. Therefore do some nididhyasanam daily. Own up the truth. You will never go back to what you were before. Once the mind has expanded to a new idea, it cannot be pushed back. Unless the new idea is not very clear. It's something like this. As a child, if my sweet fell on the floor, I would pick it up and put it in my mouth. Why? I didn't know. Then because my parents stopped me from doing it, I obliged my parents by following it. Then as an adult, I understood the problem of bacteria, the infection, all that stuff. So now will I do it again? At the most, I will follow the 5-second rule. That is how the adult circumvents that, If it is on the ground less for 5 seconds, it's okay, it's safe. Unless it has fallen directly onto the muck. Of course, my Bhelpuri wala is different, okay? The idea being that once your mind has expanded to a new idea, you cannot push it back into its old confines. Into the old confines, you cannot push it back. And this is much more than that. Yeah. I have told you all that before. I am repeating it because some people may have forgotten, or some new people may not have heard it. Even under amnesia, you cannot forget it. Look at it, if you get into a blow on the head or a head injury or something, and you can forget a lot of things. You can forget your name. You can forget where your house is. You can forget whether you are married or not. You can forget the name of your children. All that you can happen. Even there, if your knowledge is very, very clear and firm, you will not forget this knowledge. Why? Because home comes in and can go out of your mind. Name is something that others use more than yourself. When do you use your name? Only when introducing yourself or signing a check. Where else do you use your name? So these things has to be brought into your mind. It can go out of your mind. How can you ever go out of your mind? The first thing in the mind is I. Only then anything else comes. And I am Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. That doesn't change. That can never go out of mind. Therefore, it can never be forgotten. If the knowledge is very, very clear and you are rooted in the knowledge, you cannot forget it. You may forget the Sanskrit verses. That can happen. But you can never forget what you are. Once the knowledge is very, very clear, you'll never forget it. So always there with you. As I am Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman, they'll remain. You may even explain it in a very funny manner because you have forgotten the methodology of teaching. Not completely. You won't completely forget the methodology also. Why? Because that's how you gained it. So when he says, but I am the body, no, you're not body, not mind, you'll negate. So that much will happen. You're the one that sees everything. Because that is your direct anubhava. So the question of forgetting this knowledge doesn't come up. If the knowledge is clear, if the knowledge is vague, it can be forgotten, okay? That's a different thing. That means it's not yet knowledge. Knowledge cannot be called knowledge unless it's free from error and vagueness. The question of error and vagueness is taken care of by mananam and nididhyasanam. And the clarity of teaching of unfolding. So once that happens, you cannot forget this knowledge also. You don't even have to remember it, it will always be there with you. Until you gain clarity, yes, all this thing is necessary. Pavana punyena shravanam kuryat, again listen to the truth. Shrotavya, mantavya, nididhyasitavya, all that has to be done. But once it is clear, once it is free from any doubt, But Swamiji, I get a lot of doubts. That means some clarity is still wrong. Try answering your own doubts to your own satisfaction and say, yes, I am clear. Yeah. Then you are fine. Then there is no issue. But that clarity of knowledge has to be there. We are talking about this. Remember, we are talking about, the example is the butter is completely formed. He doesn't say half formed. Then it doesn't mix back, he says. Yeah. Similarly here, we have knowledge is clear cut. That avidya has been cleanly wiped out. Self-ignorance has been wiped out clearly. Once that has happened, then there is no way you can forget it. If that has not happened, you can forget it, of course. Yeah. Supposing it's not clear for you, you have not taken care of the knowledge enough. Yeah. It's still there is some vagueness, etc. Vagueness and error is there. Then definitely it can go out of sight, out of mind. That happens to people. I've seen that. Sorry. Generally in my road there is no disturbance like this. Okay. I think today is one of those exceptions. Yeah, it is one of those exceptions. Normally I see that all disturbances are kept aside, but one of those things. So, if it is not clear, of course you can forget it. It happens, some of my students, Swamiji, we are taking a break from this knowledge, okay? I said, okay. I'm involved with some other things. I said, okay, but keep it going, read something of it, go back to your notes and something. Once in a way, at least keep in touch with it. Yes, Swamiji. Couple of years. Then when they come back to the same class, they will come back because that's the class they are used to. Then they are struggling with it. Why? One thing is, 2 years we have gone forward, number one. Number two, they have regressed. A lot of things they have studied, they have forgotten. Why? Because they are not in touch. So, we are not saying you will remember all the details of the verses, everything like that. Some texts, after I have studied, I never taught it. Why? Why? Because I have not got students who are fit enough to learn that text. Chitsukhi, Khandana Khandana Khadya, all these texts, I'm always almost giving up the hope that I will get a student to teach it. Who knows? These are not easy texts to learn or understand. Yeah. So, you ask me, Swamiji, what in this chapter, isn't there some verse like this? I'll say, yeah, I remember it, but I have to refer. Why? 20 years I have not opened that book. But Swamiji, what does that book say? That I will tell you. That I will tell you. But a detail may be forgotten. But what is that book about? I will tell you. All the arguments I will bring forward. So some of these things like this can happen to any mind, okay? That is not what we are talking about. We are talking about how clear is the fact that you are Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. If you are clear about that, then that cannot go out of sight, out of mind. Because it is never out of sight, it is the first thing that is there in the mind. I. What is that I? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. Then everything else. Then everything else. Like even for all of us, even if you are not rooted in the truth, first thought is I, na? Oh. When you get up in the morning, what is the first thought? Then other things come on. But that I thought you rarely catch. Why do you rarely catch it? Because that's taken for granted. Meuna. That I is always taken for granted. Since the I is taken for granted, this is always a out of sight, out of mind, like not out of sight, not out of mind, but taken for granted. That can happen. That can happen. And that's okay. Yeah. But for a person who knows the truth and suffering from amnesia, doesn't remember anything, it will not happen, because I is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. He doesn't remember even his name. He won't look at his body and say, I am a human being. Why? Because first thought is I, consciousness. Jnanam. Therefore, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. After that, only other things will come into the picture. Therefore, once known, it is known for good. Yeah. What do you think? Avidya is like Mamata Banerjee to make a comeback or what? She made a great comeback. Okay. Hats off. So, this is not like that. Avidya gone is gone for good. Knowledge knows only to come. Self-knowledge knows only to come. Doesn't know how to go. Avidya only knows to go. Doesn't know how to come back. This is the picture. Okay. Then little bit about the vichara, etc. He talks about in the next verse. But that we will see next class. Okay. Good place to stop. Om Tat Sat.